Hello, you're watching A News Morning from Baku. I'm Bakhtiar Sonov, and let's see the headlines. Wildfires continue to ravage Los Angeles, with the death toll now climbing to 7. Thousands of structures destroyed and tens of thousands of residents flee. U.S. President Joe Biden sees progress in Gaza ceasefire efforts. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter honored with state funeral before burial in Georgia hometown. Wildfires continue to ravage Los Angeles, with the death toll now climbing to 7. Thousands of homes have been destroyed and evacuations are ongoing as flames consume entire neighborhoods.
Wildfires raging through Los Angeles have shown no sign of abating, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. The death toll has risen to 7, with officials bracing for further fatalities. Two major fires, the Palisades and Eaton fires, have consumed nearly 31,000 acres and destroyed thousands of homes.
So the Eaton fire is now estimated to be 13,690 acres. It's grown since our morning press conference because the fire is making a run towards the historic Mount Wilson area. We are still at 0% containment, but we now have a better estimation of the number of fire personnel assigned to the incident. We're now at 1,527 personnel assigned, and like this morning, additional mutual aid resources to continue to arrive to assist in the firefight.
At least 9,000 structures have been destroyed or severely damaged, and over 180,000 residents have been forced to evacuate, with an additional 200,000 on alert.
It's hard to explain. I mean, like 2-3 days ago it was beautiful, it was nice, but today it's something, you know, all smoky, it's all burned out, and you could see all the burned cars, and you see like there's no houses and stuff like that. It reminds me back to like Afghanistan. So it was pretty tragic, like pretty bad.
The economic fallout from these fires is expected to be staggering. Experts estimate damages could range from $135 to $150 billion, with insured losses alone potentially exceeding $20 billion. Thousands of residents, many of them without sufficient insurance coverage, face long-term financial ruin.
Had just come from my family home where my mother lives. That was burned to a crisp, so that was the initial shock value. And then I came up to my home and same thing, it's completely dust. So that's, I just had to see it with my own eyes to believe it.
In Pacific Palisades, an upscale community known for its celebrity residents, several high-profile figures have lost their homes. Actress Jamie Lee Curtis, whose property was among those destroyed, has pledged $1 billion to relief efforts. Other celebrities, including Billy Crystal, Paris Hilton and Mandy Moore, have also suffered losses while rallying to support victims. The wildfires are already being hailed as some of the worst in California's history, and experts predict the rebuilding process could take years.
Fire officials in Los Angeles say multiple wildfires continue to burn out of control in what has become the most destructive fire event in the city's history. Ira Spitzer has more from Los Angeles.
Another anxious night in Los Angeles as the scope of the devastation from these wildfires becomes clear. We've heard updates from local officials earlier in the day suggesting that both the death toll from these fires could rise. That stands at 5 now, but the LA County Sheriff says that is likely to rise. And already we've learned that 10,000 structures have been destroyed or damaged, and that means that this is already the most severe wildfire in Los Angeles' history, and the two major wildfires burning simultaneously, the Eaton Fire and the Palisades Fire, look to be among the most damaging fires in California's history. So a very tense time for residents. Many people have evacuated. They don't know what they are going to return to. Firefighters continue to try and battle these fires, but very little containment because of continued strong winds and adverse conditions. So the hope is that they can make some progress and prevent any new blazes from breaking out. Also disruptions to daily life. We've seen the NFL playoff game scheduled for Monday here in Los Angeles. That has been moved to Arizona. The Los Angeles Lakers scheduled to play Thursday night. That game has also been postponed. So things are very far from normal still here. And for the residents of Los Angeles trying to find out news potentially of their homes or of friends and family, a very stressful period. Ira Spitzer in Los Angeles for A News.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter was honored with a state funeral in Washington. After the ceremony, his remains returned to his hometown of Plains, Georgia, where he will be laid to rest.
The nation bid farewell to the 39th president, Jimmy Carter, who passed away last month at the age of 100. The ceremony began at Washington's National Cathedral, where Carter's flag-draped coffin was carried by a military honor guard. Presidents past and present, including Joe Biden, attended this service to honor the 39th President of the United States.
Through it all, he showed us how character and faith start with ourselves and then flows to others. To young people, to anyone in search of meaning and purpose, study the power of Jimmy Carter's example.
After the service in Washington, Carter's remains were flown back to Plains, Georgia, where ceremonies began in his hometown. James Carter, the former president's son, paid tribute to both his father and late mother Rosalind, sharing their incredible impact on the world.
He was an amazing man. And he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world. And it was an amazing thing to watch from so close and to be able to be involved in. And I thank you for your service.
Well-wishers in Plains lined the streets to honor the man who led the country from 1977 to 1981 and whose efforts touched lives across the globe. Jackie Cunningham, a lifelong supporter, described the bittersweet emotions felt by many.
Because one of the brightest lights that humanity has ever seemed to give us, at least in my lifetime, is out. But then you're hopeful that it'll be carried on. So it's a real mix of emotions.
Jimmy Carter will be buried in a private ceremony in Georgia, with donations requested in his honor to support the work of the Carter Center.
In the United States, President-elect Donald Trump's criminal sentencing is set to take place on Friday. This comes after the Supreme Court rejected Trump's last-ditch effort to delay his sentencing.
The United States Supreme Court has rejected President-elect Donald Trump's last-minute bid to prevent his sentencing in his hush money case scheduled for Friday. Trump was found guilty of falsifying records to disguise reimbursements for a hush money payment to an adult film star as legal expenses in 2016. The court ruled 5-4 against granting Trump's request to delay his sentencing, with two of the Supreme Court's conservative justices joining the three liberals in the majority. The president-elect says he respects the Supreme Court's opinion.
But we're going to appeal anyway, just psychologically, because, frankly, it's a disgrace. It's a judge that shouldn't have been on the case. He's a highly conflicted judge, and they called for an appeal. So I read it, and I thought it was a fair decision, actually. So I'll do my little thing tomorrow. They can have fun with their political opponent. I respect the court's opinion. I think it was actually a very good opinion for us because you saw what they said. But they invited the appeal, and the appeal is on the bigger issue. So we'll see how it all works out. I think it's going to work out well.
The trial judge says he's not inclined to sentence the Republican president-elect to prison and would likely grant him unconditional discharge. This would place a guilty judgment on Trump's record, but would not impose custody, a fine, or probation.
U.S. President Joe Biden expressed optimism about progress in the Gaza ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Biden said he met with negotiators earlier and remains hopeful for a prisoner exchange, though he blamed Hamas for delays. He also welcomed Lebanon's new president, Joseph Aoun, and praised the Lebanese military for serving its people and not external military groups.
We're making some real progress. I met with negotiators today. I think there's what's going on right now in Lebanon, and we finally have a president. He's a first-rate guy. I spent time on the phone with him today, about 20 minutes to half an hour, what they have planned. They're also working very hard with the Lebanese military, accountable to the Lebanese people, not Hamas, not Hezbollah, not any other group. And so I think we're seeing some progress.
British markets are among the biggest victims of a global bond sell-off that has spilled over into currencies and stocks this week. Yields on long-dated British government bonds are at their highest in decades.
That has put the British government finances under pressure, while the sterling is struggling and British domestic stocks are underperforming. Britain's Treasury says it will maintain an iron grip on the public finances and that UK bond markets continue to function in an orderly way. But benchmark 10-year government bond yields surged more than 30 basis points in 3 days to hit 4.92% on Thursday. That's the highest since 2008.
What we're seeing here is the impact of jitters over inflation, persistent inflation, and the fiscal outlook, which is unnerving investors. Not only are we sort of concerned here about the impact of inflation, which seems to be a bit stickier than expected, and the concerns of the inflationary outlook after the Labour budget at the end of October. But it also looks as if the Bank of England may not be able to cut interest rates as quickly as was initially expected.
The bond tumbled to a 14-month low against the dollar on Thursday on fears surging borrowing costs will force government spending cuts. It has also lost ground against the euro. Traders are braced for a wild ride in sterling. And some analysts say the currency may replace the euro as traders' currency of choice to sell short against the dollar. The bond sell-off has spilled over into stocks too. Britain's FTSE 250 index, which includes consumer, real estate and financial firms, is down over 3% this week so far. Market sell-offs can pose a challenge for governments, but the bond aspect is increasing the pressure on Britain's finance minister, Rachel Reeves, and could force her to cut future spending.
Foreign ministers from the United States, Italy, Britain, France and Germany met in Rome to coordinate responses to Syria's post-Assad transition. The meeting focused on supporting Syria's provincial government and addressing societal challenges. An EU press release emphasized inclusiveness, minority protection, the rule of law and justice as key for reconciliation and peace. The European Union reiterated its readiness to back a Syrian-led process with UN support. Turkey, seen as a key player in Syria's political transition, was not invited to the meeting. Syria's government announced that it will resume issuing passports for Syrian nationals living abroad through its diplomatic missions and consulates beginning Sunday. The foreign ministry confirmed the reactivation and passport services via its diplomatic and electronic consular offices in a statement posted on X. The process will continue under the current appointment-based system used by each mission, providing a structured approach to passport requests. This move follows earlier comments by Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shaibani, who revealed plans to improve consular services for Syrians abroad. The announcement comes just 1 month after opposition forces successfully ousted the rule of Bashar al-Assad, signaling an effort to rebuild relations with Syria's expatriate community and reintegrate them into the country's institutions. Lebanon's parliament elected Army Chief Joseph Aoun as president, ending a two-year political deadlock. Aoun was elected with 99 votes in a second round of voting and will fill a position vacant since October 2022.
Lebanon's parliament successfully elected Army Chief Joseph Aoun as president, ending a political deadlock that had left the country without a head of state since October 2022. After failing to secure the required two-thirds majority in the first round, Aoun won the presidency in the second round with 99 votes from the 128-seat parliament, surpassing the 65 votes needed for a simple majority. Aoun, who enjoys strong backing from the United States, was the leading candidate throughout the election process. His victory follows the withdrawal of rival Suleiman Frangi from the race, clearing the path for Aoun's election. The election marks a shift in Lebanon's political landscape, particularly highlighting the waning influence of Hezbollah, an Iran-backed group, following its recent conflict with Israel. The session, chaired by Speaker Nabih Berri, was attended by several foreign diplomats, including representatives from the Quint Group, Egypt, France, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, who've been closely monitoring Lebanon's prolonged presidential vacancy. Lebanon's political crisis has significantly impacted the country's security and stability, particularly amid escalating tensions with Israel. Despite a prolonged deadlock, Joseph Aoun's election is expected to bring a resolution, offering hope for an end to the political paralysis that has plagued Lebanon for over 2 years.
The past year that saw half the globe head to the polls also brought about a resurgence of conservative policies and thinking, giving rise to some interesting form of alignment between Western leaders and those in the global South.
United States, Donald J. Trump.
The super election year of 2024 has, amongst the other things, revealed an ideological shift across Western democracies, being reflective of a wider transformation extending beyond partisan and party politics and rabble-rousing lines. In addition, what is widely described as the surge of the right in Europe and elsewhere, the trappings of more fundamental reascendance of conservatism, as understood in the context of societal values, governance models and foreign policy choices, seems to manifest themselves in a way that has never been the case before. From Trump's return to the White House to the results of the elections to the European Parliament and the emergence of right-wing parties in government across 7 EU member states, there's a clearly pronounced move towards a political reality wherein what was once on the fringe of the right is transforming into the mainstream, with the centre-right itself increasingly feeling a need for readjustment. Although these political forces differ in many respects, with some being truly extremist and many others moderate, they all can be jointly categorized as New Right espousing a conservative outlook, characterized by traditional family values, cultural protectionism, and non-interventionist international policies.
And we will make America great again.
Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, for instance, in his latest interview given to local television channels on 7th of January, expounded on Trump's political personality.
Trump bizim cəmiyyətimizin bölüşdüyü dəyərləri təbliğ edir.
Trump promotes the values shared by our society. Family values, moral values. He promotes these values. Just look at his family. Now, I don't want to say anything about others' families, but it has become so public now. Also, what can we call the Biden administration's lying, making promises, then retracting them and acting as if nothing happened? What can this be called? That's why not only Azerbaijani society, but the hopes of all countries lie in the fact that this immorality, this lack of ethics will come to an end. And societies, such as Azerbaijan, which are based on traditional values, will be able to shake off these external influences.
onlar bu kənar təsirdən yaxalarını qurtaracaqlar.
Aliyev criticized the Biden administration's approach, accusing it of fostering mistrust through inconsistent foreign policies and what he described as ingratitude toward Azerbaijan's contributions in global missions like Afghanistan. President Aliyev also expressed hope for improved US-Azerbaijan relations under a Trump-led administration, highlighting the potential for strategic collaboration built on shared values and direct communication. For some, a new paradigm shift reflects the death of liberalism and the rise of conservatism. Whether this view is precipitate or ill-conceived is yet to be clarified. But what is certain is that globalization in its olden guise, or rather what is fashionable to call the global liberal order, is facing its greatest challenge ever. What is also intriguing is that there is an evolving, yet undeclared, concurrence in views between conservative leaders in the West, such as Donald Trump and Viktor Orban, and leaders in the Global South, vying for greater independence and self-sufficiency. As politicians of Donald Trump's ilk advocate for less interventionist policies in those parts of the globe where the US has been very active before, recognizing a crucial role of rising regional powers, such as Turkey, for instance, this concurrence assumes a more practical and less mysterious shape. The phenomenon is one of interest and is yet to be fully understood, and skeptics may argue that it may well prove to be situational and transient. Yet, one key element of this perceived concurrence, however, is more of practical nature, that is the appreciation for plain, no-nonsense and traditional conservatism built upon mutual respect.
European Council President Antonio Costa and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev held a phone call, during which Costa expressed the EU's heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, the Azerbaijani people and the government for the tragic crash of the Azal flight near Aktau late December. He also noted that the EU supports an impartial and transparent investigation of the crash. The two sides also discussed opportunities to enhance EU-Azerbaijan relations. Ruben Vardanyan's transition from a financial powerhouse to a man on trial is captivating international attention. A week later, on January 17th, he will face charges in Baku's military court, accused of terrorism, financing armed groups and other grave offenses. Who is Ruben Vardanyan and how did he become embroiled in such high-stakes allegations? Here are the details.
Vardanyan's court hearing, presided over by Judge Zeynal Agayev on January 17th, will address accusations ranging from terrorism to crimes against humanity. According to the Azerbaijani State Security Service, these charges stem from his alleged involvement in funding and organizing illegal armed groups operating in Karabakh. Best known as the founder of Troika Dialog, one of Russia's premier investment banks, Vardanyan also carved a reputation as an advocate for global Armenian interests. His career trajectory has taken him from Moscow's financial elite to international headlines. Vardanyan's impact on Russia's economy was profound. Under his leadership, Troika Dialog became a cornerstone of Russian finance, and he served on the boards of major companies like Kamaz and Volga Dnepr. His work extended to the Skolkovo Innovation Center, a flagship project in Russia's bid to modernize its economy. The Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP, revealed that Troika Dialog facilitated the transfer of billions of dollars through a complex network of offshore accounts. These transactions reportedly benefited Russian oligarchs and government-affiliated entities. Although Vardanyan has denied direct involvement, OCCRP's investigation paints a picture of a financial ecosystem intertwined with Kremlin interests.
Vardanyan and his family were among those who received money from the laundromat. More than $3.2 million was used to pay for his American Express card, went to accounts belonging to his wife and family, and paid school fees for his 3 children in Great Britain. Asked about these sums, Vardanyan said the offshore companies Troika created serviced his own companies in addition to the bank's clients.
In a dramatic shift, Vardanyan renounced his Russian citizenship in 2022 to avoid Western sanctions. But Ukraine included him on its sanctions list for providing logistical support to the Russian occupation army. Right after denouncing his Russian citizenship, he relocated to Karabakh, assuming the role of state minister in the so-called unrecognized self-proclaimed Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. He positioned himself as a visionary leader focused on the region's development amid escalating tensions. The timing of Vardanyan's move has raised suspicions. Analysts argue that his presence in Karabakh coincided with Russia's strategic interests in maintaining influence over the South Caucasus. Vardanyan has faced accusations of being a Kremlin-installed figure aimed at undermining Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who has pursued more pro-Western policies. These claims are widely discussed in geopolitical analyses, including reports by Stratfor and the Moscow Times. During his tenure as state minister, Vardanyan reportedly facilitated the operations of illegal armed factions. According to Azerbaijani security services, he facilitated the funding and operation of these groups, contravening international and Azerbaijani law. His activities have been a focal point in Azerbaijan's legal and diplomatic efforts to reassert control over Karabakh.
Based on the collected evidence, reasonable suspicions have arisen that Vardanyan Ruben Karlenovich, born in 1968, currently a citizen of the Republic of Armenia, committed the criminal acts under Articles 214-1, financing of terrorism, 279.3, participation in an armed formations or groups, which are not provided by the legislation, and 318.1, illegal crossing of the state border of the Republic of Azerbaijan, of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan.
Vardanyan's arrest on September 27, 2023, marked a turning point. Azerbaijani forces detained him while he attempted to cross into Armenia, citing substantial evidence of his involvement in terrorism and other crimes. His trial, set to begin shortly, will not only scrutinize his actions, but could also have broader implications for regional dynamics.
Armenia's government greenlit a bill that calls for the country to launch a bid to join the European Union. As the bill is set to be presented to the parliament, the country's prime minister warned that the public should not expect rapid accession into the EU.
Armenia's government approved a bill initiating the process to launch EU accession negotiations. While the move represents a pivot away from Moscow and toward Brussels, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan cautioned against unrealistic expectations.
The decision to join the EU cannot be made by the government alone. It will require a referendum and the support of the people.
The bill reflects Armenia's aspirations to realign its political future away from Russia. However, the process of joining the EU will be complex and lengthy, as it requires harmonizing laws with EU standards and navigating geopolitical challenges. Pashinyan also stressed the need to manage public expectations, adding that concrete negotiations on the roadmap for EU accession are yet to begin.
Until negotiations officially start, Armenia should refrain from premature actions. We need to approach this carefully and responsibly.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin responded cautiously, pointing out that Armenia can't join the EU while remaining in the Eurasian Economic Union, complicating the geopolitical shift of Armenia.
A famous Italian fashion brand will feature Italian couture in a new exhibition for the first time in Paris.
In the capital's Grand Palais exhibition hall, Italian couture house Dolce & Gabbana is prepared to open a new exhibition featuring the fashion company's 200 original creations. Running until March 31st, each room highlights a distinct historical era, geographical region, or cultural aspect of Italy that has influenced their work. The event is titled From the Heart to the Hand, and it delves into the creative journey of designers Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana. Curators selected pieces from past and contemporary collections, evoking the essence of Italian paintings, ancient mosaics, and aristocratic attire. A historic milestone unfolds with a first-ever exhibition in Paris, showcasing deep Italian inspirations and vibrant emotional experiences, as curator Florence Muller explains.
The fashion exhibition has become a real phenomenon, very important in the museum world. It has changed the rules, it has changed the perspective, it has changed the level of the presentation. It has created something more vibrant, more emotional, more full of experience.
This landmark showcase not only celebrates Dolce & Gabbana's artistic journey, but it also offers a heartfelt tribute to the timeless influence of Italian culture on the world of fashion.
That's all we have for this hour. You can also get the latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is anews.tv. Thank you for joining us, and also we wish you a good day ahead.